City of Sanford Community Redevelopment Agency held Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015 at 4 p.m. in the Railroad Depot Room, 2nd floor, Sanford City Hall, 300 North Park Avenue, Sanford, Florida, 32771.
All righty, we'll go ahead and call the CRA meeting to order. We'll start off with roll call.
Steve Chesmer.
Paul Osborne.
Brian Volk.
Mike Yeba.
Charles Davis. And then also is Sheena Ford and Bob Turk. And Mr. Colbert. All right, let's go ahead and kick right in. Do we have Cynthia here? Hello. Oh, we got to approve the minutes. Hold on. I'm ahead of the game.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the Wednesday, November 4th, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Hello, Cynthia. How are you doing? Did everybody have a good Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it's December 2nd?
Yeah, 80 degrees, 85. Tomorrow's going to be cool, though.
Yeah.
Finally.
We're going to get our Christmas tree tonight. I wouldn't go get it when it's 80 degrees. I just didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. But now I have to because it doesn't seem like it's going to change.
We're on number 5. We got the 5th one up.
Tree.
What? Well, we have 7.
7 trees?
So far. Yeah, 5 big ones.
It's not very green.
We just left the house. The Sentinel's over there doing the story.
Oh, good for you. Your house looks good for Christmas.
Thank you.
All right, Cynthia.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Your financial statements are your agenda item number 3. There's not much to them. Just goes through October 31st, 2015. No revenue income as of yet. And just a little over $9,000 in expenditures. And do you have any questions?
Weren't we going to be moving some money around? Some money, a carryover?
That's next.
Is that next? Okay. I thought you were saying questions like you were done. Sorry.
Questions on the financials? No, we'll go
Anybody
on
have
to
any questions?
the CRA budget rollover. Is the 3rd sheet. If you look at your agenda item number 3, it's a piece of paper on it. And it has 2 components to it. One is the cash that hasn't been allocated, but some of it has been allocated to projects which are in question on whether you want to keep them there or move them to something else. And then open purchase orders are at the bottom for projects that were funded last year that have not been completed yet, and we can move those forward. There's a question on 2 facade grants that were approved on April 2nd on 2014 that are still open, but nobody's claimed the money yet. I don't know if we're going to keep those open or
110 South Palmetto. Who is that?
Don't they have to file for extensions?
That's that one beside the Celery City that they did some work and then stopped. It's boarded up.
To the right of it, if you're facing it.
Yeah.
To the right?
Yeah, that building's got violations and other
Is it?
things, I think, yeah.
That's from 14. Yeah, they came to us. I don't remember them coming to us for a facade grant.
Not London here.
I don't remember them
Before
coming to us
me.
for a facade grant in April. Am I correct in that, Sheena?
No, this is the one.
You looked at that
The
building,
old Jamaican,
It's
yeah.
got
next to the
T111 on the front.
next to the Sanford Wine Company.
I thought he did a lot of build out into
Roof collapsed and then they put a new roof on it. Roof
Right.
caved in. They had to put a roof on it. I know they did that. They did that on their own. I don't remember them coming to
That
us in
property's
April.
on the market, isn't it?
Yes, 198,000 or something like that.
These were the ones that came in with Christina. She did 4 of them at a time, and they were,
Oh, okay.
they had that, gosh, I had the,
I remember that happening.
Remember that came before HPB, and that, the
it's right, they had the
training or
really
whatever
nice
was working
stairs,
with Christine, she's an architect.
printouts and everything.
She was doing all the
Mhm.
remodel work in the front, stained glass, and,
Was I on the board at the time?
yeah.
I remember that.
Is Christine, she's not here, is she?
Well, they have to apply for extension. And they would have had to apply for 4 extensions,
We've contacted
No, you
them.
got 6 months.
6 months.
It's a 14. Yeah, this is 14.
Uh,
Yeah, this
so-
is 14.
Yeah, we
Right.
contacted,
So-
we tried to reach out to them and we got nothing.
Then I would say
I'd
that
send a registered
that
letter.
we're moving it back into general.
Was it for a facade or was it just,
Yeah, this is
Redo
facade.
it.
Facade.
he
Facade.
hasn't done anything with the
Yeah.
facade?
Well, there's two of them. You got one,
Yep. And then
10
400,
and 400.
210
Or
South
no,
Magnolia.
210.
Ellen Woodruff's building across from the
The Napa
Wayne
building?
Bench.
The Napa building, the white one, the big white one?
They were gonna turn it into the jazz club.
The
and
Jazz
just
Club.
like
I've
not
talked to them. They're trying to find somebody else in there. I
He's
I
trying to
sent them
work.
to you. Did they call you? He said, who can I contact? I said, call Bob Turk.
But they're also looking at the other theater, the same people.
Okay. I guess a motion to, I've never had to take back a facade grant. What's the procedure on that? Just say we're going to put the money back in?
Move
Mr.
to-
Colbert?
I think you could move to cancel them and to reallocate the money back into the operating budget.
Okay. I'll leave it to you guys for action on that.
And if they have something later for those buildings,
They have to come
back.
reapply. They can
They
reapply.
could reapply, but they couldn't just reactivate the canceled one.
So that's 16.5.
Um,
Can I make a
Give it a
motion?
shot, yeah. I move to reallocate the funding for facade grant for 110 Palmetto Avenue back into the general budget
And also 210 South Magnolia.
and also 210 South Magnolia.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
For the record, that was Steve.
That was good, Steve. Give you that.
Sorry.
Puberty all over.
Did anybody oppose? I didn't get that. Did everybody say aye?
Yes.
All right. Motion carries.
Okay, the next question I have goes back up to the cash portion of the rollover. We had 2245 allocated to 113 Palmetto, which was never spent. I didn't know whether you wanted to leave it there or reallocate it with something else.
Is that-
1071 was to Christine Preserve American grant, which I'm not sure how that's going. And Sanford Avenue First to Seminole had $9,208 left in it.
Wow. So, what was the 86 up there?
That's just cash that was left over,
That we just
mainly
didn't do
from
anything
salaries and Sanford Avenue project.
Okay. And then the Preserve America grant. Tom, are you familiar with that at all? Do you know anything about it?
Wasn't that something with the trees?
I remember
Tree
something
study
on
or
it.
something?
I know we approved something for it, but I don't remember. Is it a grant that if she doesn't get it, she reapplies? Should we keep it in there?
I would suggest keeping it in there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then 113 Palmetto. That is that the Sanford Brewery? No.
No,
113.
that's,
113 is next where the old Goodwill. It used to be the Goodwill, and they were doing them.
No,
painting.
The old
Palmetto,
jail,
that's
isn't
the
it?
old jail.
Yeah, the old jail.
Oh yeah, I'm on Sanford. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Palmetto.
What do we allocate that? That building's gone, isn't it? Has that building officially
Is it-
changed hands?
Tom, has that contract been signed yet?
Palmetto?
The old
Yeah.
jail?
The old jail?
It's been signed, they've got, I think, 90 days to close on it. It gives them time to get the conditional use they need for the office part.
I mean, realistically,
Who's getting it?
Philco, Tom Phillips have bought it, his company.
And what will it become?
It becomes, as far as we know right now, a restaurant or a upscale entertainment, whatever,
What does that mean?
a bar,
Oh,
a brewery.
brewery.
good.
Did
But right now, their number one is put a restaurant in there. They've talked to several already.
did we did they buy for like 50,000 or something? Did that go through? I remember hearing something like that.
They bought it for the value of the land, it's a very, very small amount, but they've got a development order that they have to do something in a couple of years and just to expand. Their plan right now is to put a restaurant in the old jail part and then the parcel adjacent to it to have an office in the front. Or possibly retail in the front,
Or
office in
retail.
the back.
All right, I'm probably going to get shot down for this question, but I got to ask it. Well, is any of the money that CRA put in there going to be reimbursed back to the CRA from the sale? That we can then do that, or is that just a done deal?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure there's enough there to
Okay.
put that.
All right, fair enough. Had to ask. Is this the fiscal thing to do? Had to ask. Well, obviously, if it's being sold, more than likely, what'd you say?
TIF
You get
money.
TIF on
Once
it.
it gets developed, you'll be getting tipped.
There you go. Obviously, they're probably going to come to the CRA at some point, so I would say the $2,000.
No.
Let's just put
They
it back.
won't.
No? Oh, really?
That's what they say. Well, that's why they got it for so cheap.
So they wouldn't come back to the till?
Right.
I wouldn't guarantee that.
Well, no, but that's what they're saying anyway.
Okay. So I would say let's put that back into the general. We can move this around. So that would leave us, Christine's would carry over. Well, it all would pretty much carry over,
Mhm.
but we have 86,000 that's really not earmarked for anything, correct?
Correct. The 9,200, are you gonna leave that in Sanford Avenue for Casino?
No, that would have to move over too because that project is done.
Done.
I believe Christine's done with everything on her wayfinding and all that. That project's complete, correct?
I don't know about implementation.
Well, we could always put it back if we needed to.
So leave it there for now.
I would know. I'd say close it out because
Close
we're
it.
done on our end.
Okay.
All right, so that's pretty much putting us at what,
You get $114,338.15 to allocate.
114,000. Three what?
38.15.
To go back into the general fund.
Or to put to
Wonderful.
something.
Our general fund.
Realistically, for the quickest move, I would say we have not funded the event center for any design work or anything like that.
Right.
I would say for our quickest move, unless you want to go through this whole budget, I would say move it over there. I don't think we'll use it all, but we could always move it out of there. It's just putting it someplace, unless you want to go into great discussion on it now. No? All right, I'll leave it to you guys,
Well, how do you get 114 out of 98?
because that's what she told me.
How did you get 114?
You had the 16.5 that you closed for facade grants. You had the 86,000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All of it.
Right, yeah.
Man, you can't call the accountant out when she's sitting
No,
at
I
the
was
table
like,
like
wait
this,
a minute.
Brian.
I forgot about the facade grants.
Is that a motion, Brian?
Yeah, what was it? 114,
338.15.
338.15. All right, I move to approve $114,338.15 to the Civic Center, the
Event center.
the new event center.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Oh, this is a fun one here. I've been looking forward to this for 3 years, Brian. All right, next up, facade grant, Lake Monroe Harbor, Brian Bolt.
3 years. You want me to sit here or up there?
You can stay here.
It's an easy one. Just looking to repaint the building. It's a big building. That's why the costs are so high.
Are you doing the work yourself?
No. No, I did it twice over the years. Getting too old for that. Colors are really, I got the colors right off Regatta Shores Apartments. Driving by there every day, I say, that's pretty nice colors. So. And I did get another bid that was like just short of 22,000. So all the bids are over the $20,000. So the pressure clean it, fill the cracks, and paint it.
And you've been through all the proper channels? I mean, I'm assuming.
Well,
For the
I
record,
guess because I'm not downtown,
Yep.
or I'm not in the
What is that? Is that
store.
It's financial disclosure form.
All right.
Yes. For the
Yeah,
record,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Where is that?
You're going
I
to have
have-
to.
Right at the very
You're
beginning.
going to have to abstain
Right
from
with
this
it.
and fill out the proper paperwork.
Right.
Right after that.
So for the record, you have all that ready for him?
Yeah, that's filled out.
It's already done.
Have you been, do you have to go to permitting? Is that all? I don't
I
It's
don't
not in
know.
your book for
I
some
need
reason.
permit
Oh,
for.
okay,
painting.
Here's a copy.
Great, that's okay.
If so, then the contractor will have to do that.
Exactly.
All right, that works. I'm just making sure we cross that, dot
And
those
the
i's.
colors, I don't
T's.
think are a factor because I'm not in the historic.
Double percent.
You're not in the historic district, so you wouldn't have to go to HPB. Okay, fair enough. Any questions for the applicant? Yep. All right, leave it to you guys for action.
I move to approve a facade improvement grant in the amount of $10,000 for painting of the Lake Monroe Harbor Building located at 531 North Palmetto Avenue, subject to satisfaction of program requirements.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And is it noted that Brian Volk is abstaining?
Needs to be noted in the minutes, yes.
Brian Volk is abstaining from the vote. You need to abstain, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Cool. Never had that happen,
Thank you.
Brian. That's a new one for me. All right. Now we get to go into the fun stuff. And I hear everybody wants to be out of here by 6 o'clock to go to the Rotary function.
Which is
So
where we're at
we're
now.
gonna
Okay.
kick that right along. Who's driving this bus right now? Is it Mr. Turk or is it Ms. Ford?
Well, it's going to be both of us. There's some questions that we've been having on the applications and the disparity between the grants, the events, rehab, and the facade, and what all the work that we have to do.
Bob, let me interrupt you just real quick. Is there anybody here for public comment that would like to speak now? Because I see some faces I haven't seen that would like to speak, or are you just here to observe? Fair enough. I didn't want you to sit through this whole thing to come up and ask us something, but we'd love to have you, so thank you. All right, sorry, Bob.
So we're going to go through all of them real quick, and then we'll let.
Okay. We'll start with
She
the
knows this.
event grant first. What happens is the applicant comes in, they fill out the application, submit it to us, and then Bob and I create a memorandum. We put the packet together. After the board approves it, we send out a letter, and that's in your packet there. We send out a letter and the agreement. And then once the event is over, now we pay directly. For the event grant, one of the questions that we have is the application is about, not the application, but the agreement is about 12 pages long. And that's a lot for a funding agreement. Sometimes the event grant is only $600, and it's a lot of paperwork. And when we get into the facade grant, you'll see that not the application, that contract is only one page. So we need to try to figure out, this isn't a Bob and I thing, I guess we need to get with legal counsel on how we need to change the funding agreement, or if we want to keep it the same way.
This is one of the first grant things that was ever drafted up, I believe, for the CRA. So probably taking a look at it and seeing if we can simplify it would be.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, take
something.
it and look at it. Look at
Yeah.
all three, and let's start comparing
Yep.
on what we need to be doing. This is something we'll definitely come back to council on.
Definitely write that back to council. Two things that I personally would like to see happen that's not happening, and you guys chime in on this too, but this is me, is that when they're coming, I'd like for people when they come to be a little more detailed on that, and maybe that needs to start with you guys, but I don't want to pick on the sofa race that just happened, but Mike Smith comes in, what do you want to know? And then sits there and says the same thing as last year. At the end of the day, this is free money for the most part. It is taxpayer money, and if you're going to come up here, whether it's $600 or it's $1,500 or it's $125,000 on a different grant, I feel that they should be giving us some information. I know we had discussed early on having a checklist of the stuff we're looking for. I know we probably need to put that form together, and then also for me, also the post. Let's come in and tell us what it did. I think that's something, and it should be really taken from a page from the Jim Payne 5K. They do it better than anybody, and I'd put a close second to the art festival and Kim House and her group on what we accomplished.
We added it into the approval letter that it is required that you do the post event. We hadn't done that in the past. So we just started adding that.
And quite honestly, it's added in there, let the people know. But I think starting in January, if they haven't come and done a post, then don't reapply for the next. Is my opinion on it. You guys might have differ, but it just seems like a lot of people think they're just entitled to this money, and I think a lot what we don't see is what you see and what you get on your end that we don't get in front of the board, to where it's almost like an inconvenience to fill this out. Do I think we should simplify it? Yes, but Look,
And how soon do we want them to come back for the post?
I'm thinking within 2 meetings, just because it may cycle funny for the next meeting after the event. So within 2 meetings after the event happens is my take on it.
Yeah.
Are we gonna put this on the application?
Yes, ma'am. I think it needs to be in there because
Well,
you can't enforce it, but it's not on there.
Okay.
See, we're reimbursing the city now. If you would reimburse them and they don't get reimbursement in 60 days, if they don't give a post, they don't get paid.
No, I agree with what you're saying there, but I don't know that that's the fair thing to do. What happens is, because if they did the event, we should pay that. But what happens is you don't get to come back next year. No
Well,
post.
then that has to be in there.
Yeah, it has to be in there.
In there, that
And so what do we do for
Yeah,
groups
there's
like
not a post.
Alive After 5 that's reoccurring every month?
Alive After 5, from what years back, and it's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit, is they were doing a quarterly update, and they would come in quarterly and give us an update. And I'd like to see maybe they should start doing that, coming back every quarter. Doesn't have to be a long thing. Just how's it going? We haven't seen from Alive After 5. You know, they came in once last year, and it's our fault because we're not enforcing it. So you can't be upset over it. We got to start something. Mike, anybody else have anything on that? Paul?
Well, question. When we talk about recurring events on here, I understand what I'm reading, but for example, the St. John's River Arts Festival, these various events that basically they are done each year, but do we consider these a recurring event, or are they here again going to be events that people should come to us,
They're still coming to us
but it has to be within the 90 days?
60 days after a post. On
Yeah, they
recurring
should come
events,
back 60 days, within 60 days of the event to tell us what their results are.
But they, according to this, need to come to us within 90 days of the date of the time of the event. Even though we basically know when the event potentially is going to be each year, if they're going to have it a recurring event.
You're saying 90 days prior to ask us for money?
Yes.
Right. Well, recurring event, and that's another thing to address as well, is that we're listing all the events that we're going to fund, and we're kind of doing our event funding off of that list.
Okay.
And I think what's happening is people are seeing our budget, and they're seeing, Live After 5 and all these, and they're saying, well, we're already guaranteed the money, so maybe we don't need to come reapply, or maybe we don't need to do this. I'd rather see us, instead of listing all the events, let's list an amount, and then have them come to us. Regardless of whether it's a Live After 5, which is a great event, and an art festival, a great event, I still think they need to come before us and tell us what they're doing. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's free money that should not be an inconvenience to come up to one meeting or 2 meetings and let us know what you did, what you're doing, and how it worked out and how it did. Alive After 5, they're a little different. Quarterly would be fair on that, and they used to do that on a regular basis. And it's just we just haven't asked. And it's just held them accountable.
I agree with you. I think if you're getting city money, taxpayer money, you ought to be able to sit at the table and make a presentation and tell us how many people you expect and what the end result is from your event. Not the same as last year.
Exactly, and the same as last year doesn't work. And then also I think where we might want to start taking a look at events and making sure we're getting our bang for the buck for the most part, and make sure, new events it's hard to, but events that have, let's not be the place that people say, well, we're going to try this event, let's see if it works. We know the CRA will give us money. If it doesn't, it's nothing out of our pocket. So no harm, no foul. And that's, I can't say that's happened, but let's not get into that boat.
It's happened.
Well, thank you. It's happened. So I just think it's a little more accountability is all I'm really looking for on that. And I think, let's get ourselves into that point. And if we need to send this to legal, let's make sure that language is in there and sternly in there. I mean, let's bold it if we have to. But
So Bob and I are the ones that see it at the beginning, before the board. We don't really make that call. We bring it to the board and let you all make the call. So do you all have certain guidelines that things that you want to see before we bring it to you? Because every applicant we bring to you because they apply, and that's just how we've gone.
I think with a public setting, I think if they meet the criteria, they have the right to apply. It's just whether or not we fund it or not. So I don't know that at your level, and Mr. Colbert, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that at your level you can say, no, you can't apply. I think if they meet the criteria, they have the right to come, and then it's us as a group that will say, we think this is what we want to do or what we're going to do.
And maybe
If
there's
they
a simple,
provide the forms and fill out the
Yeah.
qualifications.
maybe there's a simple check-off list that you can
There
give
is.
the applicant of things that we need
I think they have
to
it.
know
It is.
when they come before us.
We
And-
might change some of those, but
There's also one that I wanted to bring up. It says the special event must occur within 90 days from the date of the application. That was an issue in 2015. So I don't know if we want to change that. Before an applicant can come before the board, they have to get their approval from the commission.
Well,
So,
that's happened a lot though, because they get pushed off and they don't get into the meeting until the month before the event.
right. So do we want to take that off?
We had a bunch of them last year.
Yeah, that is a problem, and quite honestly, even to come to us, they should go earlier so then they have the funding, but by the time they go through a cert meeting, gets on the agenda, something's pushed, I don't know, I think for us, what do you guys think? It should just be that it's approved? The fact that it's approved through cert, and then be contingent on commission approval, can you start at the staff level and say if CERT's approving it because they know the guidelines, can we approve it prior to the commission or what? I don't
Well,
know.
we have to
Or
have
not.
that letter from Jennifer that gives the actual city
Mhm.
cost,
We
and
want
that
to.
comes with the commission approval.
So wouldn't the 90 days then start once we get the letter?
But we've gotten
No,
the letter
they're-
prior to that.
Mhm.
We've had the letter before it's
We
come
had-
before the commission. I know that. Jennifer will, when they meet at a CERT meeting, Jennifer will go to all departments and will get a cost, and then she drafts up that letter. She gives them that letter to let them know what this event could possibly cost them, and it hasn't been to commission approval at that point either. So they could be turning that in. I've seen it where we were approving something that was on the agenda for the next week.
True.
I've seen us do that. Is that the proper way, Mr. Colbert? I mean, are we doing it the right way?
You can give your approval based on or conditioned upon concurrence of the city commission approval. So in essence, you could approve it ahead of time, but if the city commission doesn't approve it, it doesn't go forward.
Right, then that would it would go away at that point. We wouldn't have any costs anyway. And Jennifer would have still had to do the same steps to get to that point to send it to the commission. So maybe we are based on approval of CERT with the commission. I don't know how you word it. I mean, that's not my
You
department.
could have something to the effect that within 30 days of CERT approval, that it would need to come before the board, and that way you meet at least every 30 days. That would get it to you, as opposed to the 90 days.
What makes your life easier, Sheena?
For them to get approved by the commission, and then, because you don't have to go back and follow up. You know that it's already approved, you know what the actual city cost is. That makes the agenda item easier. And, I mean, I understand CERT, but what do you all want to do?
I guess my concern would be is that a commission meeting, if it goes 30 days before and it happens on the Thursday after the first Thursday of the month, and that's when they get it approved, they can't come to us because the event's going to happen. I mean, I've seen it where the commission's approved an event that's happening 2 weeks from that date. So I don't think that would work.
Okay.
Because it's not their fault that they're not on the agenda till that point. It just might be where it's falling. And it's not their fault that we only have one meeting. Could you say, yeah, go early? But in the event world, it doesn't work.
Well,
So-
since we're on that track, Bob and I discussed following what the city clerk's office does as far as the date where you're allowed to submit your application and the cutoff date as well. For anything that you submit for the CRA. We need to have that online, because sometimes we'll get someone that comes in 2 weeks before the CRA board is supposed to happen. And then they request to come on the agenda. When we have to, technically, we need to have the agenda out 7 days prior to the meeting, and that holds up a lot as well. So we need
It's
to
not
have
written,
dates.
because we've been kind of following the Tuesday before the meeting, because you said that's how much time you needed.
Right.
Do we need to put
That's
that
the
in
way it had
writing?
been before. But
Huh?
it's the way it's been. But now we want to make sure that we've got more time to do it.
So you want to go how far before the meeting?
when the application is submitted?
You're asking, you just changed
Yeah.
gears on me, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were talking about stuff that's coming onto the CRA agenda.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about following the city clerks, what they do.
Right.
They're the Wednesday before the meeting?
No,
what
no,
is their
longer
time?
than that.
It's, no, because like their meeting is on the 14th, the
10
today is
days,
the
yeah.
deadline.
10 days.
So 10 days prior?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm okay
We
with
put
that.
that in there.
Consistent.
We want to make sure it's in there.
Now, I will tell you, I'm not big on add-ons. So an add-on, you know how I am on that, so an add-on would have to be really, the only add-on we've done has been Cindy's Dance Studio. And so if they missed that cutoff date, it'd have to be a pretty good reason, justifiable to be an add-on. So I'm okay. But that part is your end. I mean, I think we should be flexible on that because you're the one doing all the paperwork
Yeah.
and having to file everything. And it might give us so that we're not having confusion and having more time. And then we would also, on the back end of that, we would start getting our agendas on a regular time frame and being able to review them. Anybody?
Yeah, that's fine, 10 days.
All right, let's get back to the event grant though. I think we need to adopt something that says that if CERT's approved it, that we approve it upon CERT and the final approval of the commission. So how we word it, I don't know, but if they go to CERT and CERT says, yes, this is an event we will take to the commission, because if it's not an event, I can tell you from sitting down there before, if it's not an event that's going to be what the city wants, they cut you off at CERT. So they won't even put it on the agenda. So I guess we have to use that layer and say, if you've been to CERT, then within 30 days, commission approval or something, so that they can come to us. And you guys will just have to word that out. Anything? So,
I don't think that's been an issue, though, has it? That part of it? Yeah, I don't even know.
I just don't allow that,
You're
I
worried
don't
about the
allow
90
them
days.
to submit their application if I don't have that letter from Jennifer.
But we have, what started this conversation was the 90 days, and we break that on a regular basis.
Right, yeah, that,
Mhm.
yeah.
So we just need to remove the 90 days.
You remove the 90 days, but I think you ought to make sure you at least have in there a CERT approval or something and commission approval, so that we're at least letting them know in the application what the process is, and maybe just not put the timeline on it.
Well, yeah, you gotta have.
So they can't
estimates.
get any money unless it's CERC approved and city council approved.
Well,
You can
no.
come, if it's CERT approved, you can come to us for approval of the event.
Right, but they won't get
But
the actual money
You
until
won't-
the event.
We won't pay it unless the event is approved by the commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it wouldn't happen if it wasn't approved by
Right.
the commission, so it gives us that safeguard.
There's another item on here that says the program or special event must have at least 300 attendees. We've had a couple that have not. How do we,
Well-
say that the next time, you know, if we attend the event and they have less than 300, do we say something the next time they submit an application?
It would be ineligible then.
Well, that would happen with the follow-up meeting. That's when that
Well,
would be.
see, what they're liable to say they had 350 and they had, 200, I don't know.
I don't know how we police that. I don't know how we police it.
I don't know how you would police it on an event that would be starting up for the first time, because there's no track
Right.
record, and they really don't know.
Right. I would almost say take that out, just for the simple fact that we don't have any way to police it. How do you put something in there that we just can't police unless Bob's going to go to every event and it happens in
Are you
Sanford?
sure?
All of them.
And count?
Tom, you eligible?
I mean, it's easy enough to look on, most of them are on Facebook or,
Yeah.
you can, almost any event down there, you can see how many people are there.
You know, they do actually there might be a way to do this, because every event does a post-event through CERT, where they all come in, and police, if the police are there, they seem to be giving estimates of how many people were there. I don't know, they do it by a calculation. I think sometimes it's a little high, but I think maybe if we're going to have them coming in for the post, maybe we ask if we can have Jennifer send us up the post-meeting results of what she does, because she documents it. I don't know. Maybe
That's a good idea.
Maybe we can ask if it's possible. If it's not, so be it. But because that would be nice to have in the packet, so when they're coming for a post, we already know what staff has said about the event and what each department said. It's an extra step. You have to look into that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think it sounds like a pretty good idea. You're shaking your head and biting your lip.
I'm agreeing.
Oh, okay. Well, I gotta.
That's
I
what
didn't,
agreement looks like.
I didn't know your agreement face.
Just moves on to the next.
I think that's a good point also. I mean, does the CRA want to fund an event that has a couple hundred people? You know?
Mhm.
And, you know, folks do inflate the number of people as they expect and everything else.
Mhm.
Might add a little reality to it.
Yep, it does. And we're kind of starting to get a handle on which events are being successful. I mean, you know, a lot of us in this room are there. I mean, we kind of get an idea. So, okay.
The problem you have is you have more events coming to than you can fund.
And that is the problem. I think we're going to see that now with more going on, and then even with the growth heading towards the water, and we're going to have to start picking.
Good problem to have.
It is.
The more the merrier, but we pay every day to bring people in from Auto Train and from the Sunrail.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good problem to have, and it's just now we just need to start paying attention because it'd be terrible to pass up on an event that we really want because we don't have the money. So,
Mr. Davis,
yes,
one
ma'am.
question. Twice this year, we've had 2 events to come in, and their city cost has exceeded the amount that the board has approved.
saw this.
Are we going to allow them to come back and ask, or if we have not if the motion did not say not to exceed, how do we handle that in the future?
What,
Our motions seem to say that
yeah, they always say up to.
up to
Now, how far off
Now-
were they money-wise?
$750.
Yeah, that was the
Fireball.
Fireball,
Because
and
they
we
had
had
more.
one other. And we only gave them a certain amount, but it comes back to Bob and I.
Why are they
It's
over?
estimated on what they tell
Right.
the city they need, so I don't see, you know, how it can vary that much.
Well, 2 things, and here's where I even sent it in an email. Number 1 is you can't come to the CRA after the events happened anyway and ask for more funding. We've turned down people because of that before. So if the events happened and you didn't come and ask us for enough, sorry,
Well, they're
I don't know what to say. I mean,
They're going by city cost, so that's all.
Why would city
Anyway.
costs change though? That's the
they
thing.
may change something and have to add an extra officer.
Yeah, but that's
They
not
may-
our fault.
No.
That's not, he's asking why it changes. They could have decided that now it's instead of having 1,000 people, they're going to 2,000 people. Now they need more trash or more bigger dumpsters. They could have closed off another road at the last minute. There's a lot of things that can increase it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't-
you can open up the footprint of what you're going to close off.
Yeah, you can make changes afterwards, and then it's on the post. The post meeting comes up with that. You know, perfect example. 6 years ago, we had a rain out for Bike Fest, and we knew what our city costs were going to be because the field was flooded. The city sent out the vacuum truck and dirt and all this stuff, and we got a little bit extra bill on it. It happens. I think, personally, for me,
I think
I
I'd just
think-
leave it be.
if you're that successful, you should have a little extra money.
I think from a legal standpoint, if you approve a certain amount, that's all you can spend from a legal perspective. You can take into account next year when they come, potentially increase it or something. But if you approve $1,500 and they come back to staff and want an extra $200 because it costs $1,700, staff can't approve it, and you folks shouldn't approve something after the fact from a legal perspective.
That's what I figured. What happened with the Fireball run?
We didn't have-
Right.
Or you can't.
Right. All right.
That's it for event grants, unless
Okay.
there's anybody else have
So
anything?
takeaway on that is you're going to figure out for post and pre first checklist and what we're looking for and what we're asking for. We're going to look at legal to maybe take a look at this and see if we can condense it a little bit.
Yes.
And then we're going to take out the 90 days and we're going to add the word verbiage in there basically that if they don't come back to us for a post, don't come back to us next year.
It's in there, but it doesn't say don't come back next year.
Let's
But
word it a
it's-
little
it's-
nicer,
Yeah,
but yeah.
it's
So on all 3 of these, for example, whatever decisions and recommendations we make today, they'll retype it and then they'll get it to us for approval for the next meeting. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully.
Or maybe the next meeting.
Okay, you only got 10 days to get the stuff in for the next meeting we have anyway.
March meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one is the rehab loan subsidy.
And we're looking at asking to change the name of this
Yes.
to Economic Development Rehab or Rehabilitation Subsidy.
Okay. That works.
Instead of commercial loan.
Yep.
That's what we call it anyway.
That's fine. Anybody? It gets that grant out of there.
Mhm.
That's what we want to do.
Get the loan out.
So the loan, if they keep the building for 10 years, they don't have to pay, they get a percentage each year towards paying off the loan? Is that how it works?
Yeah, your payment is your.
It's the same thing. We'll still do it the same way.
Okay,
We're just going to change the name.
Your payment is the fact that you stay there.
okay.
And every year you stay there, it knocks it down a little bit.
So at the end of 10 years, you really don't owe anything.
Correct. At the end of 5 years, you owe half of it.
I wish I owned a building.
I know. Is there any concerns in this? I mean, this one's pretty cut and dry. Do you have some concerns?
So I do.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a question. I want to make sure that on the loan subsidiary, that we're including the preservation officer.
I think that's on the facade grant application, right? Or does that?
But it needs
would
to be
that
on the
apply?
loan one too, that the loan officer,
Yeah, you told me that.
the preservation officer is getting copies of these before they come to us so that she can tell us if it meets the criteria for the S codes before we,
It's supposed to go to them before it comes to us.
correct, that's what I want to make sure is that it does do that.
It's on the checkoff list to make sure that it's been done.
Okay.
There's never been
And then
a problem.
I would also
Yeah, But
suggest,
there's,
We can.
according to the last meeting that we went to at the HBB where I sat in over there and saw that, there were changes from Christine's office to what came here before us. There were,
from the initial one.
right, from the initial application for HBB, what was approved over there was what was not the same thing evidently that we saw here.
Not that I want to go and debate this for you real quick, but just so you know, what was given to us was given to us 25 minutes before this meeting. And it was given to us to do as an add-on with Mrs. Dalton sitting in the meeting. So that's an untrue statement. And I just, we're going to go on the record on saying that. She brought that down so that we could approve it to put it on this meeting. And we did it 20 minutes. I came in 30 minutes early. We did it in that office
I don't
next
think
door.
that's adequate time to review a changed package.
No,
But
she
nevertheless,
brought it
that's
down to
fine.
us and approved it.
Yeah,
She
that's
brought
what we're
it down
hopefully
to
going to
us.
avoid.
She brought it down to us and said, I approve this, and I want you to get it on the agenda if you can. She asked for that. And that was not me asking for it. I was called and asked to come early. So, to your point, I'm only saying it because that's not a true statement. The second thing is, I don't think we've ever had a problem on HPB not getting all the proper stuff on this rehabilitation grant prior. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we've never had a problem on
I don't
that.
think that's even the issue with her not getting this stuff. I think the issue might be the payout from the CRA for a project that's been completed but doesn't comply with the city ordinances or codes regarding these.
Well, there might be a simple solution with that in that,
We can't control that.
well, we can to a degree, I think. What if we said that once the loan application is satisfied, that the preservation officer has signed off on it, that it's met the criteria for the S codes, or in the building department has done all of their permits, that before the final issuance of money is dispersed, that it has to come back to the board and we approve the release of the money. That way we
In other
know.
words, all the criteria has been
We
met.
know that the and I might suggest that if the preservation officer isn't available to sign off on it, that Tom George sign off on it. That those be the only two people who can sign off on an application that it's met the criteria of the S codes
Let me ask
or
you,
the building department. And then when it comes before us, we know that there's no issues between the building department. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and I guess I am, but I see your point. I know you're trying to avoid the ping pong back and forth thing, but I found out during this last experience that frequently, not only in the building department, but in historic preservation, even after they get a building permit or a C of A, they frequently do more work than is what is approved on the thing, and that you would go ahead and pay the bill if there's not some follow-up on it.
Correct. I want to make sure that when we're giving out money, whether it's a facade grant or a loan subsidiary, that we're paying for what they said they were going to do, and that's it, and that there's no more issues, that they've gotten a CO with the building department, and they've gotten a completion of a C of A from the historic preservation, assuming they're in the historic district.
What's the normal procedure?
Well, I think there's some
what's
language
that?
in the CRA application for the payment. And one of the last things on the page is city staff will verify that this has been done, that's been done. I forget the
Yeah, it
exact
says,
language.
There is,
I
but
don't think that's been happening.
Well, what
but
happened
in that last issue, we had an issue. So
I don't think city staff verified that some of those things have happened. They get a CO and they do this and they do that.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we have that extra level from the preservation officer or you, and that the board is the one who's releasing the money, not anyone else.
Well, let me ask this. Under a normal circumstance, if they did not come to the CRA, would the preservation officer have to sign off before they got their CO or their completion? Is that the normal procedure?
Yes.
So if
That
let's
is
just use
now.
Cindy's while we're talking about
That
it.
is now. That may not have been the case prior to that. We've learned some lessons from this thing. We've changed our procedure a little bit to where even before they get a CO from the building department, the historic preservation officer has to also sign off on that.
And so she
Because
says,
in the past, they could get a CO from the building department and maybe not have done all the work for the C of A for historic preservation.
so the C of A, that's what HPB approves, and so the building department could be issuing a building permit as CO and giving their certificate of occupancy and never gone back, and she would the preservation was Christine. Christine would not have been there doing
We
it.
change that now because that was a flaw in the system.
Well, you and I-
The building inspectors were looking at building code stuff, not Schedule S stuff.
You and I had talked about, because originally when we did this, we kind of thought that as a board, when we were doing it, is if the building department gave it a CO or a certificate of completion, that's their job, and that if they gave it that, then they met all the criteria, and we'd be done with it. And that way there's not this extra steps. Because once you put extra steps in, you, number one, give it a way to get messed up a little bit. Number two, you put more work on somebody who might already be overtaxed on work. So where it sounds very easy to throw it out here, there's ramifications down it. So what we learned was that from the last incident is that that's probably not the case that's happening, but it sounds to me like staff is trying to remedy that problem. And would you guys fixing that problem get us back to where we needed to be by allowing staff to do it? Maybe rather than having people sign off and to come back to us, maybe prior to releasing of funds, HPB has to sign off on it, and somebody from the building department has to sign off on it. Then those two people signing off on it then triggers her to release the funds. Coming back to us to approve the funds is just another step that I don't think
I'm
we
okay
need.
with that.
I'd be fine with that too, as
Yeah.
long as there's a trigger mechanism
Yeah.
that the funds aren't released until the criteria's been met.
And
the
the
work's been
criteria
done
can be on the
according to
application. You know,
Well,
before payment,
think-
HPB or
I think that needs to be part of the application, some
I agree
type
with
of
that.
notice on the
Yeah.
application saying there will be no further release if you do not meet the criteria set in the,
I don't think you need to say there would be no funds set. It's just that, and it's just like a certificate of a CO, is that unless they sign off on it, we're not paying it. So if Christine won't sign off on it, well, you need to fix why Christine won't sign off on it. That might open up a door as well to that they're having to come back to us to plead their case. I mean, is that also making us judge and jury? Because if Christine won't
because-
sign off on it, who's the next step to?
City commission. Well, if she doesn't sign off, it can go before HPB.
And then
If they
and then
deny it,
do that route.
then they
go to
can
city
appeal it to the
commission.
city council, and whatever they decide is
Yeah.
golden.
And really what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to accomplish the extra layers of steps to put him on staff, because number one, we got to pay for those layers, and number two, staff is taxed as it is.
Yeah,
I mean, they barely keep up.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah,
Christine or and or the building department signing off on
HPV
it.
only, really truthfully, HPV gets involved in very few things in the CRA because they come in just about Second Street, isn't it? Magnolia, Cindy's is about the end of it, isn't it? Or does it
The
carry
Ritz.
First Street?
I think it goes to Third.
Third.
I think the Ritz is in the historic. It is in the historic
Sanford
district.
Avenue is not.
No, Sanford Avenue is
Waterfront's
not.
And luckily,
Yeah, I mean, as far as commercial area.
So, Tom, is that something that you think would solve a little bit of the problem, having both of them sign off on it?
Yes,
And just put it on there?
I think there's a clause in there, I'm not seeing it, I've got the application, but it says one of the last steps to getting payment is the city staff will verify that, and I don't remember the exact language, I thought it said that, that all the permits had been satisfied and everything else, but I think we can put language there, the city staff verifies that the building permit, they got a CO, and also the soil preservation officer signed off on the.
I'd like to see I'd like to see for us, which is holds accountability, is whatever payment application that we're giving them, that when we close it out, that they're signing off on it as well, so we have their signature on our paperwork. I think that's the one I'm looking for.
What do you mean, though? Do you mean that they're going to sign off that they intend to comply?
They're going
or-
to sign before she makes the payment, whatever
Oh,
form we
just
have.
whatever. Oh, I see.
Instead of what he's saying, they sign off on it on their end. I'm saying that whatever form we have before we submit the payment to be done, we'll have two spots on there for building department and HPB if applicable to sign off on it, and they sign our application. It's on ours. That way, if you pull the CRA thing, it shows Christine Dahl signing on it, or Russ, or whoever the people are, and we see their signature. That triggers her to release the funds. If the signatures aren't on the
I
application.
agree. Oh, yeah,
Totally good.
that's the
Yeah.
checklist we have. It's
Yeah,
got
on our
somebody from the
checklist.
building department and the preservation department has signs off on the application that it's met the criteria.
You follow what I'm saying there?
I was talking to Tom.
Basically, on our checklist, and before you can release the funds, I don't know how we get it on there, but basically, whatever verbiage, when you're doing your checklist before you can okay the funds to be released, we're going to have two places for signatures on it, and it'd be HBB if applicable, and then building department, and both of them will sign it, acknowledging that the work has been completed. And once it's signed, once both signatures are on there, that triggers you to go your process of releasing the funds.
Okay. Well, we don't release the funds until they have to submit receipts. So when they submit the receipts, I can have them to do what you just said.
And the key is we want somebody from staff to sign something saying that they've looked it over and they've approved it, so that you're releasing the funds and we're out of that mix. Am I fair on what we're saying? And everybody's okay with that procedure? Tom?
Sorry, I've got the application thing in my office with some notes and scratches and what I thought. I don't have it with me, but we'll make those changes and bring it back to you. And show what we changed.
Yep. I think the key
I think we
thing,
can tighten it up.
I think the key thing that these two are looking for is a signature from HPB on there showing that she knows it happened and she knows the funds are going out pretty much.
We can
All right.
fix it.
So one more quick thing on
Go
that.
ahead.
At the HPB meeting, it was alluded that the CRA approved materials that were being used.
No, we never do that.
I know that. We all know that. So I'm wondering if in the application we can just have a form, and I'm going to use layman terms, that says we're not approving materials or design or anything else, but that's a separate entity, that we're just approving a loan. And that you still have to go to other places in the city to get approval.
I think that's great.
Because I don't want an applicant to come in here with an application that squeaked by and there's something in there that we all missed, and have them think that we're approving materials or design. I'll give you an example. When you go before the Historic Preservation Board, they read a disclaimer that says, we're not approving permits or anything else. You still have to get permits. We're only approving a specific thing. We're not saying that you don't need building permits. So all I'm saying is I want to make sure that the applicant knows that we have nothing to do with the design or the materials that you're using in your application. I know we all know it, but when people come in here, they're intimidated, they're scared, they're not hearing all the things we're saying because they're trying to figure out what they're going to say next.
Yeah, and they look at us as a governing body that has knowledge or that has capability of approving these things, which really is not within our purview to do.
But we don't approve that. We've never
I know,
even gone
but
that
they're
route.
under the impression.
Right. And it was
that-
brought up quite a few times at the HPB meeting.
Right.
Right.
And I will be honest, I was getting irritated that the chair wouldn't acknowledge. I mean, when you got a chair and two members sitting there, at least acknowledge that the chair is there and ask them, was that what happened? I mean, and they threw it out there 4 or 5 times.
So-
And we don't do that. And I had told him point blank, that's not our case. Before we can come to our agenda, you have to have all those steps done. So do we put something on there for something that should be done before it gets to us? And is that the proper way to do it? Because you're not allowed to come to us unless you've been through planning and zoning, HPB, and all that. That's you can't come before us to do that. So why would we put wording in there on something that should never come to us? That'd be my only hang up on there. And I know where you guys are coming from. And the only thing I also throw out there is, let's not try and change the world because of one thing that we're fixing, and making an application apply to one person. Let's fix the problem and make sure it doesn't happen again. But let's not make the application go around one thing. Would be my only thing.
I understand where you're coming from, and I certainly understand where Steve's coming from. Perhaps it's just some type of verbiage that's a disclaimer, maybe not attached to the application, but something that can be given outside of the application.
Tom?
We're going to modify the form with a few things we've already talked about. It would be very simple, I think, to just add one sentence, something to that effect. If you let us work on something, we'll bring it back to you and show it to you and tell you what we changed or added. So you
Okay.
can think about it.
Fair enough.
One sentence will probably handle it.
Fair enough.
Sounds good.
We're not approving it. We'll get to look at it again and we can discuss what they bring to us
I
and
think
see if
that's
we
awesome.
approve that, and then we can make changes on that. Okay.
Just make sure we've got the checkoffs in there.
Definitely the checkoff and definitely the signatures. I'm big on the signatures. I think that holds accountability, because nobody can say, I didn't know about it if you signed it. I like that. All right, facade grant.
That basically took care of it.
Yeah,
There you go.
it covers all of them, so.
Boy, moving right along.
I would just like, and I don't know if Cindy can help out on this, just so that we have it on the record. There's a couple of issues with whether or not someone could apply for a facade grant at a different address, or if they've come to the board more than one time. So, but we were unsure.
It's always been told to us, it's per address.
Yeah.
That's what we've always gone on, and it's always been addressed. So if one person owns 3 or 4 different buildings, they can come to us to meet the criteria for each building.
Building or?
Address.
Right, because you can have one building encompass 4 or 5 addresses.
And
So each one of those is
we've had
they're
that
allowed
too.
to have a facade grant.
No,
Each address.
Address.
Yeah. And we went through that on
Giuliani.
Giuliani, yeah.
and also on West End, or the
Yeah, West.
Chief District with the theater, because he had maxed out on one address, and then the second address was the theater, and they told us we could be addressed. So, unless that's changed, I don't know.
I think it can apply per address. I think that's the way it's been done.
And it doesn't
It's not
matter.
illegal to do it that way.
Yeah.
If y'all don't want to do it that way, I think you could impose a rule, but there's nothing illegal about confining it to addresses.
And we have the authority not to approve a grant as well.
Yes.
We don't have to approve them. If somebody came in and we think they're trying to skirt the system by using that, we don't have to approve that grant. It is not a guarantee. That's what we sit here for. So, quite honestly, we could say, look, you've gotten a lot from us, and we think that money would be better spent in other buildings or something like that. We know of it. I mean, that's what we do. So, you might get to where you need to be just by being on the board for governance.
So we don't open ourselves up for any type of prejudice or accusation for prejudice that
I would
we
imagine
make a
somebody
slide.
can somebody
lawsuit?
appeal our decisions to the commission? Is that possible on a CRA like it is HPB or not?
Separate board, I don't.
I don't think CRA things are appealable to the
Okay.
commission.
I haven't even thought about it until the last incident.
To
even
give you an
happened.
idea that one of the contractors looked at the rivership boat. He said, well, you want me to paint that building? I said, no, it's a separate building, separate address too.
Mhm.
So,
So another facade.
Maybe a year
We've
from
always
now.
we've always operated under address. We've always operated under address, and that's for as long as I've paid attention. And now I do have one question: is that prior, under the last 20 years, I guess it has been right, 20 years, you had a certain amount within a certain period of time. When we got our extension, did those times start over for people that had already received grants, or does it carry on? So if you had maxed out in the last term, are you allowed to
10
reapply in
years.
the new term?
Said 10 years.
That's what we've always worked on, was a
Yeah.
10-year
But if you
period.
got, let's say you got it in year 12, and it was 10 years under that agreement, does it carry on, or would it start
What do
new
you
with the
mean?
new agreement? Well, our 20 years, it was you could not apply more than one time in 10 years.
Yeah.
When we did our new CRA and because we basically, that one tabled, and we started a new one, does that,
No, this is an extension of
is that right?
I'd have to go
Sunset.
back.
I think
Yeah.
we've discussed that before, and I think.
We never got
Well,
an
we
answer.
never did
We
sunset
never got an
though.
answer.
We just
This CRA
extended.
never closed.
So it'd still carry on the 10 years?
Yeah.
All right. I know we asked the question, we never got an answer on
Right.
it.
Yeah, I would think that's
That's what we're going to.
practical.
Well, we go on it. It works for me. I mean, I don't know anybody coming. I was just curious on it because people had asked. So it would still be the 10 years?
I would think.
All right.
I think if we had somehow sunset and we had to redo the CRA, then
Starts
we
over.
would have all been up for,
Yeah.
to reapply. We would-
Hey, he's
yeah.
right there. We'd have to reapply to be reappointed. Good point. Okay. What's next?
The facade grant, if you see the contract is only 2 pages long, and for $10,000, I believe that needs to be changed. If an event grant for $600 is 12 pages, the contract needs to be removed. I mean,
So we should add more pages?
it only has like the signature for the contractor. It doesn't list, everything like the rehab does, and usually the facade grants are $10,000.
Let's realistically, back in the day, I mean, right now we have predefined event grants so much now where we pay city costs and we pay it downstairs and we're not paying you directly. It would have to think we could simplify this because really you're just applying for it and money never crosses to you where it did before, and you had to meet certain criteria, and we were also funding more than just city costs. So we'd have to be able to simplify this, you would think, into a little bit more of a one-page app.
Simplify it.
Simplify.
She wants to expand on it.
No, she's talking about the
I'm talking about
special
the-
event grant.
No, I'm talking about the facade. The
Oh,
facade, if the contract is only 1 page,
yeah.
do
You
we
wanna
want to
make it
leave it
bigger?
like that?
Or
I
is
just
it-
think that all agreements should probably be around the same amount.
Well, would you want to make this one 12 pages like the special
No.
event grant, or do you want to make the
No.
special event grant the same size
It
as
just
the
always
facade
seems
grant?
like something is missing when when everyone was asking for Cindy's agreement, and it's like, well, where's the rest of it?
Mhm.
And it was only 1 page, and our other agreements are much longer. So either, I don't know.
Well, maybe some of the things that are in the rehabilitation grant application can be also used in the facade grant just to cover the bases. We're not forgetting some of these things.
Mr. Cole.
But we're not talking about as much money either.
If it meets the approval of the board, why don't you just have staff and our office look at all of the applications? We may be able to come up with one application that does 2 or 3 different
That's what we're
things.
trying to get.
And not use a separate application for anything. And it'll come back to y'all and you can look at it and
That works.
either bless it or say, no, we don't like that.
Mhm.
I think we can work with y'all on that.
That's what we'd like.
And have
One
a generic
application.
application and have a box.
Will
where-
that require a motion to put that in progress?
If y'all are just in consensus with the attorney and
Yep.
staff working together, we can certainly do that. And then when it comes back to y'all, you can take official action.
I've requested some other information from other CRAs,
Yeah.
haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
Everybody in consensus?
I'm good.
Yes.
Everybody okay with it? All right.
Okay.
Move forward on that one. Eventually, you're going to tell us what you learned at the meeting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been waiting on that because Can it educate us?
Nope.
What do you
No,
wanna- what do you wanna know?
Okay. CRA board rules. What you got on there, Mr. Turk?
I have no idea, sir. I didn't put that one on here.
Okay.
See?
There's a couple of things that we have to make sure that we do that's basically in-house. And I guess we just need to share it with the board. We have not submitted the 1-year plan like we're supposed to. We have to submit that in a timely manner, and it goes out to Cindy. Help me with this.
We've done that.
Where they go out.
The
to.
taxing authorities.
Yeah, the taxing authorities. We have to send that out. Also, we have to have a separate CRA website, which we're currently working on. That we have it on the city's website, but it needs to have its own address or either the link directly to it. And there were just a lot of rules that
New rules.
new rules.
You know, we
It's something that
spent,
we never did.
we spent $15,000 to do a website. As soon as it got done, 8 months later, the city put theirs together and gave us a page on it and shut down the website. So I don't know if it's still out there or not. I don't know if we still own it, but it was a nice website. We got to pick pictures and we did a lot of work on that thing. It took almost 6 months to do.
A lot of the other things Mr. Group shared with us regarding the sunshine laws and stuff like that. So we've already done that.
Mhm.
Everyone has done the oath except for Steve.
I did it
You did?
with the city clerk in her office,
Oh, okay.
day before my first meeting in
Okay.
January.
I don't have yours on record, but that.
I did it.
That's it. Yeah, I have all. You all did
Good here.
in here together, and I have your oath, and it's been stamped. Mr. Volk is up for reappointment, and he's going before the commission on December the 8th, and then that will be followed by Mr. Osborne.
County Commission.
County
County
Commission.
Commission.
Because your expiration is actually December. I think
You're really
it's
not
the-
here, Brian.
I'm not here.
Mhm.
All right.
When's Mr. Osborne?
Another year.
Another year.
Okay.
Yeah. You're actually up the 11th. So we submitted our information. I have to get you to sign one more form though, for it to go on the county commission agenda. And that's it for the reappointment. As far as you know that you're not allowed to, I think it's 2 unexcused, but we've done good, and it's in there as well, the absences excused and whatnot.
Pretty good at attendance in
Yeah,
this board.
attendance is good. And that's about it.
Have you been in contact with, I think it's Commissioner Carey, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
But he is on
It's
the
ready.
agenda?
Yes.
All right, so you sent it over? Okay.
Yeah. Because we asked if you wanted to, and we would, sent that on.
It's always nice when the applicant shows up at the board meeting that they're voting on them, I'm just saying. Then you'll do it in the consent.
They did last week.
Did they?
Yeah.
That's good.
I gave you all the contact information, and that's just for yearly. We did one last year, and so.
How often do we have to do ethics? Is it every 2 years for ethics? The ethics
For the
training?
ethics training,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I need to check with Pat.
Just did this year.
I know,
What
I'm
is
just
it?
curious to what the timeline is.
Every year? Yeah, I think so too.
Ethics is every year we have to do the class?
Yeah, now, yes.
Man, for my insurance license, I can do it every 2 years.
Yeah.
So we do it every year? So that's coming up then, right? Well, I guess you'll let us know when the training,
They will.
great, is that 4 hours again?
Yep.
We have to do that every year?
Yes.
Yes. You sure it's every year? You would know.
It's every year,
Yeah.
for everybody but the legislature. We pass it.
But
to
sunshine, we don't have, last time we did sunshine training, we did two of them, sunshine and ethics. So we can just get away with ethics, because they haven't changed sunshine, have they? Okay, good. Let's pick a rainy day, not a Friday. All right.
Well, they usually give you 2 different dates. That last,
Yeah. You had your choice.
the whole city's staff has to come in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we did that in the chamber.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It was
So
very good.
Staff has to do it as well. Before we move on from this, does anybody else have any concerns or anything on procedure or anything like that that you want to bring up that doesn't have to do with Cindy's Dance Studio?
No, but I can see where the facade and rehabilitation would be one,
Yeah, like that. Huh?
one form. It would just change the name on the top. Just checklist, that would be easy to do, I would think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Everybody okay with the way the meetings are run and everything else there? Good? Now's the time to get it out. This is a workshop. All right. All right. What's next? Intergovernmental agreements. One day we're actually going to do one of these, aren't we? We've been talking about them for a long time. I guess, is this the appropriate time to talk about, you want to brief everybody on this streetscape and then where we're at with that? I know you called me. I can brief it, but I might mess it up.
Bill's
a
here
little
to
bit.
answer questions also.
Want me to explain Mr. Fulmer? Yeah. I think we established some time back that, don't understand why, but I guess that's not important. The Florida statute prohibits the CRA from piggybacking on the city's CCNA process. That's about the only thing it prohibits, is piggyback on the city's CCNA process. So Bill Smith has put out a RFQ, I think that's the right word, to develop a rotating list for the CRA to use for engineering services. That opens next Thursday, the 10th of December 10th. That's how you will need to select a consultant to do the design work for the Second Street project. So you'll have to set up your own CCNA process with Bill's help. From that list, if it doesn't meet the thresholds that you have to go out for proposals, you can select an engineering consultant from that list and then pay them to design Second Street. At that point, you can hand the plans to the city, do an MOU between the CRA and the city, which only goes from this board to the city manager for approval. Just something simple, so you know who's going to do what the scope is, that type of stuff. And then the city staff can handle all the going out to the contractor, inspecting the work, approving the invoices. The invoice would probably come to you on a monthly basis, and then Cindy would pay those after they're approved at the CRA trust fund.
Okay. And then,
but the only thing the city can't do is select a consultant and have the work the project design.
okay. So we're good on everybody's good. There's been a lot of going back and forth on this. That's why I haven't explained it to you guys. You've been behind the scenes. We thought at first we were just going to reimburse the city, and we first talked about you guys do the work, we'll write you the check and reimburse it. We couldn't do that. It is out on the street. When is December 8th? Is that the last?
10th.
December 10th. On December 10th. Now, what's the process on that?
At that point, there would be an evaluation, and as I've understood it, that CRA this would not be a city commission approved item. It would be the CRA would participate in the evaluation. So probably, if y'all want to have presentations to go through the whole formal thing, we can set those up. But usually you have probably a 3-person panel. I generally assist as the moderator of the panel to review and do the score sheet and do the ranking, and then the CRA then could take the ranking and do a ranking, and then you do negotiations and so forth. So with a master agreement, it's slightly different. Here, you basically pick the best qualified companies and get their standard price, their standard fee structures, and enter into a contract. And you have a few contracts, and you're supposed to rotate those. Now, in this process, the law is a little bit. I don't. It's a use word like most highly qualified. That's kind of a slippery slope for me, because that people can be most highly qualified here and not so much here. But it pays to have a number of these, so there can be a rotation process. And the thresholds on these, you can do a CCNA, use a master agreement if the cost of if it's a construction project, if the cost of construction is under $2 million. Okay. Not exceed $2 million for the total cost of construction, not just the fee for the design firm, but the entire thing. And the other thing, if it's a study, the fee cannot be over $200,000.
So if a project was going to be $1.5 million, including the design work, then we can use the master plan. And if it went over 2, then we'd have to send it out to
Yes.
out to bid for the
Right.
most part. And then when they turn in their, when everybody turns in their qualifications, you said a 3-person panel, but if we're supposed to, depending on how many come in, if 3 people only come in, I don't know how this usually works, and we're supposed to have a bunch to rotate it around, when at that point, if they met the qualifications, we would have all 3 of them on there? Is that-
You could, but what you generally do, and it sounds a lot more complex than it really is, you basically score the things based on their qualifications, and then you look at their specialties and kind of do a matrix so you can get a couple in different specialties, so you have two or 3 or 4 that you can draw on, because.
For the master agreement.
Yeah, because on a lot of projects, you may have a design firm and does a design admin, and you may want to separate the function that would be the CEI services and so forth, so that that's a separate function. The state of Florida allows that to be the same firm in most cases. The Department of Transportation doesn't allow it, but others do. And others, quite separate. I kind of like separating it, but it just see how that works.
That actually brings up another question I have, is that, okay, right now, obviously, when we're going out for the CCNA, in our mind, it's design work for First Street. But now, if we're going to be bonding and all that, the firm that you had come in, would we not want to have them on contract to use them for bonding, or no?
The firm that talked to you about bonding, that is a law firm. They're not under the CCNA.
Lawyers
and
aren't
they
under
don't have
CCNA.
to.
Okay.
They don't have to bid.
We can hire
That
them.
pertains to engineers, architects,
Okay.
and that type of thing.
What does CCNA stand for?
Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act.
There'll be a test on that later.
And if I might just throw out one quick aside, when y'all were discussing the contracts, we have found in our office, I worked with Mr. Group and have put a lot of our contractual terms and conditions on the internet, on our web page, and then our little 4-page contract that we use now references the web, so it saves an awful lot of paperwork and what have you. And with it being referenced like that, it makes them responsible for the same information.
And then one more question too is that with the fact that we can't piggyback on the cities, would it not be in our better interest that if the city already has a relationship with some firms and they know they're working, that we would go down that road to the same ones as you? I mean, am I saying it right? I guess I'm trying to say is that obviously if you guys had A, B, and C firms that you've been dealing with for 10 years, you know the quality of work, you know they fit the scope of what we want to do, are we allowed to piggyback on that part of using the firms that you have a relationship with and pick them? Is that the right way of saying it?
This would not be a piggyback. In other words, if you have let's just, if we have an engineering firm that's done a lot of work for the city, and when you do yours, and the same engineering firm will probably score very high and be very highly qualified, there would not be a conflict to use that same firm. There would not be any reason that you would have to avoid.
I'm not worried about conflict. I'm just saying that obviously we don't do this every day, and when you guys are doing what you do and you work with these people, do we take some advice from you as who we pick, or does it have to completely be scoring? I'm probably asking this wrong.
It sounds like
No.
we have to pick our own.
I know we have to
people.
pick our own, but can we work? Can we?
You can make them
I
the
think
most
Mr. Cole knows
qualified.
what I'm
But they have to be on our list, right? On
Go ahead,
our
Mr. Cole. I think you're gonna bail me out,
Not on
aren't
the
you?
cities, no.
Okay.
It wouldn't
No,
have to be.
well, CRA.
But they have to be on the CCNA's master list.
Mr.
But
Colbert answered.
Yeah, I think he's going to bail me out. Thank you.
I'm going to try to make it simple. The legislature made it complex. They are the ones who passed the CCNA. And I remember when they did it, it was about 20-some years ago, and it was as a result of lobbying by engineers and architects and others who wanted to have the business spread out. They convinced the legislature to pass the act. It only applies to 4 or 5 professions. It doesn't apply to everybody. but it's been the law since then. What the city normally does is Mr. Smith sends out requests for proposals. It comes in. City staff reviews those proposals. Generally, it's 3 people on staff who review that. And they rank based on their knowledge and experience the firms as we rank this one number 1, 2, 3 based on a matrix that they fill out. It would then, if the city's commission was doing it, that would go to the commission, and the commission could say, well, we agree with the rankings, go ahead and to the staff negotiate the contracts, or we would like to interview all of those firms and do our own ranking and just use your stuff for information. So
Okay.
what I think will probably work here, if y'all are comfortable, they get the stuff on the 10th or the 12th. By the next meeting, the staff can do their thing and bring it to you,
Right.
and you can look at it. You can see who applied. You can see what the staff considered and who got the points and why, and you can say, y'all did a great job, go negotiate the contracts, or we want presentations from the top 2, or whatever you want. You can make that decision in January
Okay.
if you're comfortable with it.
Yes.
Can staff or should staff make recommendations?
Well, when they do their matrix, you will see who they thought was ranked the highest and the next and the next, and why. Because they do it, when I say a matrix, they assign points for the different things. Experience, reputation, have they done work with the city, and other criteria.
And you can
you'll
ask
be able to
questions
see
on
all of that.
that. I like
Am
that
I stating
process.
it correct?
Yes,
What
what we do in the city commission, mostly, they seem to like this better, is a short list. So we would do a scoring process, and we have a fairly well set scoring process that we use for this. And once we do that, they generally cluster and it breaks, and then we bring that short list. And the city commission likes to actually set the ranking. If we bring them a short list of 3, they're going to rank them 1, 2, and 3, and that's how the order of negotiations for fee structures.
Gotcha. Is everybody okay with that? Doing it that way? All right. And then
Who are the 3 people on the city staff that review the stuff to start with?
It'd have to be from the departments.
Well, I would be most happy if one or so of the CRA would care to participate.
Mike could go on there, but if they're coming back, we're all sitting here. Would you ever have a commission sit on that? Would a commissioner ever sit on that?
It happened, yes.
Does it?
Not always.
Not always,
But
but
it can.
it has happened.
Over, can the CRA do that instead of the city staff if they want to?
They can if they want to, but they're going to be starting at ground zero, which is why my suggestion was to let the staff bring them something and see if they were comfortable with it.
We wouldn't even know where to begin, would we?
What's your consensus?
That would be what Mr. Colbert just suggested, I
Okay.
believe is
I agree.
a most wise way to
Paul?
approach this.
You have something different?
Well, looking objectively on the outside, looking in, if there's been an organization and they might be very good at what they do and they have the credibility and the background, but they've never had a affiliation with the city, then you're not going to potentially look at them anyway.
They still have to score.
Well, that would be part of the matrices that
They
they're
still have
going
to
be
score.
judged against. That would be a detriment to them, but
That's
that doesn't
correct.
mean that they won't have other things that would make them higher on the level than some of the other companies.
Actually,
So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sir.
One of the quirks of this thing is the companies that's had the most work with the city gets penalized for it.
Right.
Because the object of the CCNA is to spread the work around to the highly qualified firms.
If I can add, the intent is to rotate the list, but it does go on to say that it does not preclude the organization from selecting the most qualified firm. So it's not rigid that you have to rotate through the list everything. The most important part of the statute is to select the most qualified firm for the particular job.
Exactly.
Okay.
So one reason for using somebody who's never done business with the city might be because you want fresh eyes to come in and look at a project
Well,
without necessarily knowing.
projects, they're being told what needs to be done.
Exactly, depends on the
Yes.
project.
So we're telling them what to do.
Yeah, we're telling them what to do. Plus, you have to figure out a firm that hasn't done work with the city. That's one area. They still have to qualify in the other areas, and they may not score as high. So you could have somebody who's never done work with the city and get points for that. But then your other, I did the scoring when we did the Catalyst site, and I read what's in there. I don't know if this is about the same process, but
Very similar.
there's a lot of things that I didn't pay attention to where I came with a different background that when Tom started talking about it, I went, oh wow. So I can see where having different people looking at it, maybe we have them bring us, instead of the top 3, maybe they bring us top 5 or something that we can all, because once they bring it to us, it's a suggestion. What we do with it from there. So I would say follow Mr. Colbert and what he's saying, unless you guys object, and let them bring us who the top people are. Maybe if you want to feel more comfortable, maybe get on to 5. If we have that many, I don't know how many are going to apply. We may only have 3. Who knows?
And I won't know till probably 2 hours before the opening, because they wait till the last date, a lot of them to bring their stuff material in. But I would expect
A lot.
5 to 10, maybe
5 to 10.
more.
So are we just talking about forming the list?
Well, yeah, but there's still an evaluation process. Are they, with the, if you're doing just master agreements, it's basically, are they making the cut to be approved for a master agreement? And then we would bring this back and say, these firms we recommend a master agreement for.
Let's do it this way.
So
Start with Mike.
it's a little bit
What's your
simpler than
flavor? What would you like to see? How would you like to go about this? Let's try and get a consensus.
As Mr. Colbert suggested,
Okay.
field it, bring it into us with the top tier candidates for
Brian?
review.
Yeah, same.
Same thing.
Are you okay with it? All right, we have okay. So that's what we'll do. We'll allow you guys to filter them and bring them to us, and we'll take it from there. I think that'd be the easiest. All right, I want to give 30 minutes to 5-year projects though. Bonding, real quick before you leave, 2 things. RFQ, I know we were talking about for the event center, and I know I'm hoping that's on the radar, at least on the radar, to get that ball rolling as far as what we're looking to do. And I don't know if it's been said, but basically we're going to work with the commission on this, but we have to start somewhere. So we're looking to qualify a firm to come in and then guide us through the design phase so that we can show the commission what we're doing and work together on getting it done. And I guess the first phase would be to find a firm that's ready to do it, and then we have to qualify because it's going to be over $2 million.
He's told me what he needs from us, so I'm getting that
So you're there?
information.
So we're there?
Yes.
Okay.
We're,
So is that something hopefully maybe January, February we'll be able to discuss?
I would think so, yes.
Fair enough. And then as far as bonding goes, should we be moving forward on how we're going to do this, or is this in a step phase? How do we do that?
I think before you can focus on bonding, you're going to need to have focused on the building and the concept and the size and the potential cost and the potential schedule to accomplish it, and then have a discussion of whether it's something that the CRA may be able to do by itself
Or with
or jointly with the city. And when you get to that point, then you can go out and the Bryant Millard Olive firm that was here, they can help you get stuff out for bonding and that type of thing. They can help you get proposals and that type of thing and give guidance on it.
You know, one thing that we might want to consider, and I don't know, with Tom being here and with John Jones being here, is the Catalyst site, is that obviously there's going to be some work on there. Do we get together as 2 entities, the city and the CRA, figure out to bond all of them, and maybe the CRA pay to a certain point, and then the city pick it up from that point, and maybe those discussions, because I know we were having semi-discussions about it.
I don't know.
What do you do?
I don't know if the city's going to know yet what they're up against until they actually select the first, and this is how CCNA works. They're not even going to select somebody. The commission is going to approve the rankings, and then they start the negotiation with the top ranked firm. And we expect from that, John's going to collaborate to develop an MOU. So and we don't know yet what the developer's going to ask of the city, so I don't know what we're talking about.
How far out is that process?
Yeah, that great segue. Kind of it builds on what Mr. Colbert addressed. Is you need to know what you want to do. What's the scope of your project? The length and breadth. What do you want to build? Where do you want to build it?
Are you talking event center?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Both.
So
Before you get into that, let me just finish my last my thought though, and also this is to you, Tommy. You can direct us on this. Is that we officially need to see where it's going to go. I mean, really, we're not at that point. So do we formally ask the commission? Because obviously, the island is not feasible. That those discussions did not go anywhere. The Civic Center seemed to be the direction they were all leaning towards. But should we? Is that an intergovernmental agreement that we're going to let us use the land? Where do we start on that to where we define where it's going and what's the proper way?
I mean, I think you need to have those discussions and tell the commission, this is what we're looking for. We want the city to lease us the land, or the city owns the land we build. I mean, that's a discussion.
The idea is we're going to build it and give it to the city. I mean, that's not the CRA is not going to run it. So I mean, do we do that at a workshop, or do we ask to have a separate time with them?
I think you should have a workshop and discuss in more detail how you want it to work. Are you going to just have the city permission to build it on their property? Do you want who's going to operate it? Who's all those type of things? Discuss all those things, and from that you can then develop an agreement.
Okay.
I don't know, Mr. Colbert. Maybe an MOU, maybe an actual agreement or what. But you just have to talk about what all the facets and then develop an agreement, a framework for an agreement.
That's where I always get a little confused on the issue. Is the CRA going to be the driving force that builds the property, or is it something that we're doing, or is it something that we're financing for the city?
We're the driving force. We've already been kind of given that. The commission's already pretty much directed us on that forefront. We're paying for it, and basically we're going to enter in. I don't understand the land agreement, because quite honestly, we're really just putting it out there and building it, but the city's going to own it and take it over. I mean, so I don't know why we'd enter in a land agreement. You guys, maybe this permission to build it before we give it to them. I don't know how that works, but
there's a lot to be taught. I mean, because I don't think the CRA has enough money to actually build the entire thing, do they?
No, we'd have to bond
have to get bonded.
We already know we were going to have to bond it. That was discussion from the get-go.
And then are you going to pay the bonds off in the 10
Well,
years?
that's the thing.
That's the discussion we're having here. Do we enter in a bigger bond with the city for the catalyst site and then allow us to pay to our sunset, and then the city acknowledging takes over after that? Because you would then have the money from our sunset. If we sunsetted, you'd have our money, which we should. We'd sunset, that money from us would go right back into the general fund anyway, so you would pretty much have CRA money back to finish paying.
Those are the kind of conversations you need to have.
So we should probably do a workshop, and this is where the fun starts, where I was talking about a few months ago, is that we're really going into areas that the CRA has never been in. We've never done this, and we've never entered and operated and done the way we're operating and doing it now. It's kind of exciting from my point, but it's going to mean that you're making a lot of decisions that, yes, sir.
A suggestion that I have, and it's only a suggestion, but I said with the city commission pretty regular. I think you're getting close to having the documents in the next month or two where you'll get a firm that has the capability of analyzing what's available and what works and what functions and all go on, and will probably come up before it's through with a size or a footprint, not to design the construction drawings, but to give a better idea of what would be involved and how it might operate over
That's what we're
time.
looking for.
Those, I think, are the things that the commission would want to know and to have a discussion with y'all about. And I think if you take it to them immediately, they're going to ask you questions that you'll have to say, we can answer in a couple of months. So I'm not trying to delay the process, but but I think if you get somebody on board and you begin to focus on that, then it's time to take it to the commission. This is where we are, this is what we see. Is this something y'all think we're on the right track? Do y'all buy in on this? Do we want to potentially fund it together with the catalyst site? Do we want to fund it separately? What are your thoughts?
Okay. That's some more meat on the bone.
I think that'll work.
Okay, so then the RFQ process, we keep moving forward, and then we'll schedule a meeting with the commission after we know what we're doing. And I think in that time frame too, even with the firm, we got to get with, I call it Parks and Recs, it's downstairs. What do they want to see? Because really, that's the area that's going to be running it, correct? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we don't know on. Yeah. So, all right. So we got to start somewhere. We'll start there. All right. Now, sorry, Mr. Jones, for cut. Thank you, sir.
Oh, no worries.
The floor is yours for now.
No worries. Just wanted to give you all a status of the developer selection for the Waterfront Catalyst site. 2 firms have been shortlisted out of the 3 firms that submitted, and they will be presenting to the City Commission on December 14th at their work session. There'll be 15-minute presentations followed by a 15-minute Q&A. The 2 firms presenting, the first firm at 4:45 will be Reeder and Partners. That's the group out of Orlando, Florida, did work at Baldwin Park. And then at 5:25, the Torrey Development Group out of Coral Gables will be presenting. They're the group that's teamed up with Dover Coal out of Baltimore. The next steps in the process, we anticipate that the City Commission will make a selection on the 14th that evening during their regular scheduled meeting. The next steps in the process after that will be the development of a memorandum of understanding between the selected development partner and the city. The memorandum of understanding, or MOU, will have some potential terms in there that the developer will have to satisfy and that the city will have to satisfy. And we anticipate the MOU creation and approval and satisfaction to take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. After that, if the city and the development partner choose to continue their relationship and the terms of the MOU have been satisfied, then they will sit down and begin formal negotiations for a development agreement. The development agreement will outline what the infrastructure and site improvements need to be done, when, where, and who's going to pay for them. That's when y'all are going to become involved. You and the city kind of partner on this project because it's in the heart of your redevelopment area and it's in the heart of your redevelopment plan. The development agreement term negotiations will take anywhere from 2 to 3 months. Then you're going to have to formally adopt the development agreement. The City Commission will have to formally adopt the development agreement. That'll take a month to queue up and get approved. And then the next step in the process is the implementation of the infrastructure improvements and the site preparation schedule. So the city's CIP will have to be amended. The CRA's annual work plan will have to be amended to reflect the projects coming in. And the annual budgets as well will have to be modified. And that preparation schedule will take approximately 3 to 6 months as well. So what we're looking at is after the December 14th meeting, when a developer is selected and the MOU process begins, we're looking at another 10 to 12 months before we actually get all of the terms buttoned up to start this project. So we're looking at a long-term project here, but it's $53 million. So that's the biggest project that's ever hit Sanford. So just to lay it out in front of you, those are all the hurdles that we have to go through.
Both of these firms going to do all the parcels, or you haven't gotten that?
We don't know yet. We just picked them based on their qualifications. They're going to come in and talk to us on the 14th and reiterate their qualifications, but they may also present some of their ideas for the sites, what they think is going to work, what might not work.
The $53 million doesn't include the event center, right?
No.
It does not.
So we're really looking at almost 60 plus
Correct.
million.
Event center's 3 to 4. I think
Correct.
is where we're at on that.
I'm sorry.
3 to 4 on the event center.
So
Bet you
that's
about
all.
57. Well, we hope.
So you have
It's always 10%
the
more.
development partners may be interested in additional city-owned parcels
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
downtown area.
How far out are you before you think you get a feeling of what the developers are going to want from the city or whatever? I mean, is that 10 to 12 months?
That's probably about 6 months away right now. The first thing they're going to do, or what is anticipated that they're going to do with regards to the memorandum of understanding, is the developer is going to be on the hook for completing his own market analysis, real estate market analysis, and then also going through a conceptual planning charrette with the city, the CRA, all the stakeholders, using the information that they get from their market analysis to sit down and say, okay, this is what the market says we can build here. Let's sit down and design it with y'all. And then they'll sit down and go through the design process to come up with another conceptual market or conceptual development plan that will identify what the specific improvements are. We've got a rough one in here, but they're going to fine tune the one that we have in the CRA plan. And that'll outline specifically what improvements need to go where, what the phasing is going to be based on their market analysis, which part gets built first, which infrastructure needs to go in first, which pads need to get prepped first. And that'll outline what y'all's CIP is going to be for the next couple of years, and also outline what the city's CIP is going to be for the next couple of years with regards to that specific project.
All right.
Now, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Assistance going forward,
Mm-hmm.
because that is such a big project,
Mm-hmm.
53 million plus.
Mm-hmm.
You've suggested before that we'll need someone to help us with continuing services
Mm-hmm.
to help do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's such a big project, will we have to go out for an RFQ or RFQ to get extra funding to help us do that? And Kim,
The $53 million is the estimated opinion of probable construction cost. So that's how much it would cost the developer to build all of those
That's not the
items.
city's.
That's not the
No,
city's
but-
cost.
but I'm going to where the city and the CRA can help
Mm-hmm.
fund that.
But we wouldn't be spending 53 million. We might be spending 5
Not
million.
part of that, I'm talking
Yeah.
about the cost of continuing services,
Oh.
As far as,
helping to,
With regards to
Well-
infrastructure improvements or any incentives
Sewer,
or business
water.
assistance programming
well, that we don't know.
or consultant fees,
Consultant.
all of that.
Now we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consultant fees.
Consultant for who though?
We paid a little John
The
enough
project,
this
or
year.
Yeah.
Well, who said, that's
The,
what I'm
uh,
not talking about.
the firm will get chosen and they'll,
Yeah,
there won't be any consultant fees on
Once
our
a
part.
once a firm is chosen, then the firm is chosen. You move forward on
That's
that.
all their
because
fees.
You already went through the
I would
process,
assume.
as
right?
far as the
I
development.
mean, somebody with the city's gonna have to oversee,
Right.
you know, but that goes through permitting and everything.
Okay.
I would, you know,
So we're looking at 6 months before you'd have an idea. We're
Correct.
entering the MOU, and that
Correct.
would at least give us somewhere to lean towards.
Correct.
Which
You're not going to have your final costs with regards to obligations or requests from the developer until you get into the actual development agreement phase.
okay.
So you're going to have to go through the memorandum of understanding approval, you're going to go through the market analysis, you're going to go through a community design charrette, and then if everyone agrees to continue the relationship, then you start negotiating an actual development agreement. And that's the who pays for what, when, and when does it get installed.
Because realistically, they could go through that whole MOU portion, come out and say, this just doesn't work number-wise for us. and
Correct.
they'll-
Correct.
Now we're
Correct.
done.
you don't know to what extent.
Yeah.
Correct.
And they're going to come back and cry the blues, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a possibility
And
as well.
the city might say, you know, you're just not the right folks for us. We want to go to number 2. Let's try number 2.
Now for us, are you
Well-
good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Question on all the meetings,
Mm-hmm.
that you brought up a good point. Who's gonna pay for that?
They
Just
are.
like just like the original site.
Mm-hmm.
You had all that time with the different
Mhm.
meetings with the city.
Yeah,
Mhm.
to get to
You know,
where we
public
are with
comment.
the catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're gonna have more of those public meetings.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take a lot of, you know, your work, city staff work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure, you know, CRA.
We're not involved in that though. We're not.
I
we're
don't
not
know.
Part of
We
that.
might be. We need to.
Are we getting sucked into that? Is that you keep getting that look there, Bob?
Well, that's what I. Just
No, that's what I'm
realized.
asking.
I just realized that
Yeah,
somebody's
Vince-
got to pay his firm.
Yeah.
Well, right now the city's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And really and truthfully, we're sitting back, and it might have changed, so if it has, correct me on it, because I've been paying attention and listening, but realistically, from what began with, the city was paying them, moving forward with the commission doing that, we were sitting in the wings with the possibility of helping on the infrastructure. We've never been any deeper into this project than infrastructure at all, and that has not changed, correct?
Correct. That's
So
between
what we're doing
y'all
right
and the
now,
city to work
which
out.
is a nice segue into this 5-year plan, which what we're doing right now is we're kind of in a holding pattern, and where I don't, obviously within our 5-year plan, 2nd Street and Oak and all that is our quickest project, with the event center being our main thing within 5 years. But we're really kind of in a holding pattern somewhat until we get an idea. So it's only 6 months. It's not a big holding pattern. But we really need to know what infrastructures and what, as a group, we decide we want to
You
help
really
with.
won't know for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean,
It could be a year.
Mm-hmm.
it could be
It'll probably within 6 months you'll have a pretty
an
good
idea. I mean, I'd have to think within 6 months they're going to come out of there and say, look, we need sewer lines, we need this, we need that.
You have a pretty good idea right here in your plan. It outlines what those improvement costs are for the streets that will serve that project.
So I guess what I'm leading into is that where it'd be nice to sit here and come up with a 5-year plan. I don't know that
It's
we're
premature.
a little premature on it to do it. I mean, really, I think a lot of our driving force is going to be doing the RFQ and the planning process for the event center, and then the other driving force is going to be what comes out of the firm that they choose and what they need to get done and how we're going to partner. So
You do have a 5-year plan.
I know we do.
And you
but,
have a 10-year plan as
but
well.
we haven't. But what are we doing? Because right now we don't know. I mean, are we changing things around? Are we taking the list? I don't have it in front of me, but is it now this need to move up to here? Does this move down to here? Do we need to start juggling things? What do we do? Because quite honestly, I know what you want us to do. You want us to take all of our money, stick it into the catalyst site, and say it's great. And then I get that.
Well, I mean, it's a plan that's been identified.
It has been identified.
The project has been identified
Mhm.
by the city,
By the city.
by the CRA. It's in your community redevelopment
Mhm.
plan. It is the catalyst project,
Mm-hmm.
so that means it will catalyze additional growth. So it's in your plan. It's in your 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there.
It is
hasn't
there.
changed.
We could change things around.
But it is there, and I do agree it's there. But it was never been 100% bought on that the CRA was going to just put all their funds into that, and then we're just going to be a catalyst site and this. So that's where I'm questioning on it. I know it's been the whole process, and I know talking with Tom a few times, we really don't know what that amount is. I mean, it's hard to on a 5-year plan if we don't know what we need to do. So it is on the plan. We did have to put the plan together. I know you have the plan, and I know you're going to break it out for us.
Well, no, I can tell you what it's going to cost. You know what it's going to cost. It's in your plan.
All right.
This is what we reviewed before we went into the
Mhm.
extension for the CRA. This was the basic plan that we proposed to them, saying
Correct.
that this is what we want to accomplish. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I remember.
It'll cost you about
PowerPoint.
$3 million for the
Several times.
infrastructure improvements to serve the catalyst site. The Sanford Event Center is listed as a $5 million project.
Mhm. So we're at $8 million, and
Mhm.
but we were all the question there was how
Well-
much of that is the city picking up as opposed to the CRA? Are we partnering? Where are we at with that?
That has yet to be determined.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
well,
that's
where
what I'm backing up to.
We're gonna
A little
have to
premature.
get bonded.
So when I say we're a little premature on the 5-year,
We're gonna be in this 9 years, so the bonds are 10 years, so, you know, physically we can't pay it off, so we gotta work with this, the city.
but who's to say that we've never been on the hook for the whole $3 million? We never were the group that was going to totally do that.
No, they're gonna be looking for the city for more funds for other things on that project,
Mhm.
so it's gonna be beneficial for both of us to get bonded together.
My point to it was that I think we're a little premature to try and really come up with what's priority over the next 5 years by about probably 8 months to a year. I mean,
Well, I
we know
think-
what we have on there, but that's not to say that that's how you might need to move
I
them
think
around.
it's always been understood that this
Yeah.
is almost like a rough draft, but
Yep.
it's
Yep.
this is our basic outline and intention. It's going to vary. There will be variables that will occur.
But we have to keep in
That's just
mind
the
as
way it
well.
is.
We have to earmark money because if we don't, we just can't let it sit there and roll over. We have to put it somewhere. you have to earmark it for certain projects, because if you don't earmark it or spend it at the end of the year, technically you're supposed to get back to taxpayer.
No.
So we need.
We
yes, we are.
just moved money
Yeah.
back from last year.
But
That
was
didn't use.
earmarked.
Well, yeah, it was earmarked, yeah. But we always earmark the money, and then you move it the next year.
We can earmark it for
but
next
we
year.
can earmark it for infrastructure because we know we're going to have to do it.
This year.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't the 1792 CRA get in trouble for doing that, fellas? I mean, didn't they get their hands slapped pretty good for doing that? I believe
They weren't
so.
spending money.
They weren't
All right,
spending
We're
money.
spending
Yeah.
more than we have.
I think
We're doing well. Our spending is
That's a
doing
whole
very well.
different issue of trouble.
So it'd be,
we don't have no problem spending it, but we need to stop spending it, because if we're going to use it, where are we putting it? That's the
So
other.
you can hold on
you
to it
don't
for a
want to
little
eat your
while.
seed corn, folks.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. You don't want to eat your seed corn.
Eat your
Okay.
seed corn. I thought I was
That's
Southern.
Huntington.
John Jones, you take me to task on Southern. I don't say some crazy Southern things, but you follow it. I
That's
like
not
it.
Southern. That's just,
Yeah, it is.
that's just common
That's as
sense.
Southern as Southern can be. All right. Okay. Well,
But
we
did-
where we were going to do some more discussion on future projects. I think
One last
truthfully
thing,
it's a little
Mr. Chairman.
premature. Yes, sir.
Strongly advise that y'all please come to the meeting on the 14th.
I will be there.
So you get a chance to,
And the
to see
workshop.
those folks. Right, the work session actually, because
Okay.
that's where the presentations are going to be.
I will be there.
And that'll give you a
I'll be
chance to
there.
ask questions of these guys and, you know, establish a trust with them, you know, just by talking to them.
We'll
So
be able
let
to
us
talk.
Probably not.
15 minutes of Q&A, so feel
Us
free to.
talk? No.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're recognized, and I doubt we'll be recognized to talk there. So, all right.
Cool, thank you very much, I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming,
Mhm.
Tom.
I need to talk to you.
Before I go
Okay.
into you guys have sat over there so well. Do you have any questions or anything like that that you heard that you didn't understand that we could explain to you? Or
Well, we've got the Bay Shores, the Inner Compass microbrewery that's going to be coming in.
okay,
This is the gentleman that's going to be doing that.
Where is that going?
And John's going to be doing some of the work for him.
the old gas station.
No gas
The gas
station.
station.
Oh,
Cool.
Great. Yep. So they were coming to see what they had to do. I told him that probably the form was going to
Alright.
change.
And I thought somebody just really cared to come see what the CRA was all about.
Oh, they did. That's why they
Well, I
were
know.
The group that just-
I know them. No, we were trying to speed up. I was wanting them to ask questions.
When do you
So
hope to do all that?
everybody's working at it.
Waiting on the building permit, well, the engineer to make the final change. And the
Alright.
funds.
Some months?
Right here.
So they're going to be coming
Yeah,
before us
You should have called the shuffleboard
rehab?
court.
for rehab. Yep.
The court. So
Facade and rehab, or just both? Yeah.
all right. You don't have anything in director's
No.
report? Paul?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Steve? Nope. Brian?
I'm good.
Anything else? we need to-
10 minutes early. Getting y'all out of here by 6. All right. If nobody has anything, Mr. Colbert?
No.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I guess we'll be getting review.
Get that recorded in your child's.
Oh,
Keeping your pen.